everyone. It's Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. I've got Calvin Timms pinch hitting for me tonight. Thanks for joining me. Where can everyone find you and your work?
You can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, and you can find our podcast on YouTube, Apple, Rumble, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast. The Dynasty After Dark podcast. We've got a sports betting one as well on there as well. It drops every Saturday morning. So if you're looking for a few bets that you like for the week, you can go find us over there. But yeah, we do a lot more out of season than we do in season, but we're still trying to put out at least one video a week right now. So.
All right. Well, thanks for stepping in for the guys here. We will get into it. We're going to recap the NFC side of things. It's a little grimmer on the NFC side. There's only one game where I don't have an injury written down. I might also add that there were way more AFC games than NFC games, so we've subbed in the Thursday nighter between Titans and Steelers. That's going to be the first one here, even though it's not an NFC home game. So I will bring that bad boy up. I'm going to attempt to bring that bad boy up if my computer would cooperate with me. There we go. Before we get into the recap, I'm going to head back to Deepak's page here. Titans, Treylon Burks in concussion protocol. Stretchered off the field, was precautionary for spine, blah, blah, blah. Data favors missing week 10, return week 11. Last I heard, everything was good, though. I don't think they even took him to the hospital. I think he was fine, and I still expect him to be in concussion protocol and not play next week, but I guess that's good to see that he was all right, escaped any major damage. He's got to be the most unlucky player I've ever seen. He gets hurt more than Jalen Waddle.
It's a lot of head stuff, too. It's like hamstrings and concussions. It's all he seems to get right now, unfortunately.
Who is it? There's someone I'm trying to think of, and it's just their play style. Which wide receiver is it? And I feel like you'll probably know. I swear to God, every time the guy makes a catch on the sidelines, it looks like he's just making the most violent landing ever. And for some reason, I'm drawing a blank. Hopefully, it'll come up in the recap.
Is it Mike Williams or?
It's Mike Williams. It's absolutely Mike Williams. And he's also injury plagued. But him and Burke seem to have this thing where every time they make a landing, it looks like it's just the most violent car wreck you've ever seen.
They need to go to Tua's judo instructor. That's what they need.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey? No kidding. All right, just a sec. I'm going to click on here to see how my fantasy teams are doing live in this one. Oh, I've got Mixon, Burrow. These are not mine. I just wanted the game's live in case you haven't picked up on that. It's halfway through the first quarter here. Irv Smith looks like the star of the game so far. That's interesting.
They're moving. They're moving pretty good. I got it up on the other monitor, so Buffalo's driving. So if there's anything crazy, I'll let you guys know.
Awesome. We'll get back to the Thursday nighter for now. We've got the Steelers beating the Titans 20-16. Both quarterbacks sucked. Will Levis came back down to earth. He had 262 and an interception. Kenny Pickett had 160 and a touchdown. Neither quarterback was good. Neither quarterback is good. I hope you sold high on the Will Levis hype. The running backs were pretty good. We had 75 yards and a touchdown for Derrick Henry. Tyjae Spears had 5 carries for 18 yards and was a non-factor. Najee and Warren looked to kind of split carries, but I thought Warren was much better out of the two.
He was fast, man. He's very fast. I'll say that much.
69 yards and a touchdown for Najee, which is why he outscored Warren. But Warren had 88 yards. It was just a touchdown here that kind of saved Najee. I much prefer Jalen Warren. I know we've been saying this all season that Warren's going to take over, and it hasn't happened, but good God, does it ever look like it's getting close? It may never happen. This may be a fool's errand. At this point, you might not want to have either of them, but I don't know. Jalen Warren looked good. Najee did not. Receivers, 7 for 90 and a touchdown for Deontay Johnson, which turned George Pickens back into a pumpkin. 2 catches for -1 yard. Then he deleted all his teammates and his coaches on Twitter and unfollowed the team and turned into a drama queen because that's what wide receivers do. Kyle Phillips was the leading receiver for the Titans. Go figure. He had 4 for 68. D-Hop had 4 for 60. Burks had 2 for 23 before leaving. Nobody else really did anything. Chigo Okonkwo had 3 for 28, and I'm not going to get into the Pittsburgh tight ends because they're not real tight ends. They're offensive linemen. Both kickers were average, but not great. Defenses were disappointing. I didn't expect much from either, but I didn't expect for a 20-16 game, you would think the DSTs would have produced more than 7 and 1 point. But like, how do you give up to only 20 points but only get 1 fantasy point? Like, no sacks, no interceptions, and like nothing. It's so kind of disappointing. But we took away from this one all around. Besides that, aside from Henry and, maybe Deontay Johnson, it was pretty damn disappointing. A bunch of mediocre players.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing with Pittsburgh. I agree with you. I don't think Kenny Pickett's very good. Will Levis, he just wasn't even able to do anything. Their offensive line is still bad, and Pittsburgh's front was eating it up like nothing. So we'll see if these guys can do for anything for fantasy, but yeah, Kenny Pickett's kind of rough. I want to see what the actual breakdown between Deontay Johnson and George Pickens is going forward, because, George Pickens had the bad week, but he also wasn't able to get the second foot down on the touchdown, which would have been great for him. And he also got airmailed by Kenny Pickett he was running wide open on a crossing route. And if he would have got that, it would have probably been like a 40-yard completion right there. So, I want to see what they can kind of do going forward, but in this game script, it just made sense for Deontay Johnson. So that's the only thing to kind of watch for this team.
Yeah, it was kind of a messy game. I'm not real, this is a lot of players here where nobody really was targeted on this team. You didn't really target anyone in drafts. It was just kind of, he's not the worst option. I guess I'll take him. Like, Henry's been good, but I worry. What is he, 30? 29? Oh, he's 35, so he's still producing, but I feel like that's a time bomb that I don't really want to be stuck holding. But
yeah, especially in Dynasty. But at the same time, Derrick Henry's a weird one because he does so much to stay in shape and everything, and he's such a physical monster. Like, the speed can kind of go on him a little bit, but he's such a big dude that it wouldn't surprise me if he could still be fantasy relevant until 32, 33 at this point, but just something to keep in mind.
The only other takeaway I had from this one is that I wish I had bought low on Deontay Johnson a fair bit more. I think he's a wide receiver 2 again, but we'll move on to Minnesota at Atlanta. Minnesota wins at 31-28, another exciting game between middling teams. Injury news here is Cam Akers. It is an Achilles injury. He's out for the rest of the year. Deepak says expected or possible realistic return of week 1 of the 2024 season. Expect a massive production dip for the first half of the year. I think Cam Akers might be in the Daniel Jones territory that you said last show, where Cam Akers might be done as well, as if Cam Akers wasn't already done. But
yeah. Second Achilles injury for this guy. He had the one a couple years ago.
It's his second. Oh,
yeah, that's just brutal for this guy. I feel really bad for Cam Akers. What could have been for him, but
I wonder if it was the same one.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I'm sure when it is confirmed, they'll have all that info. But yeah, it's just rough.
I'm trying to see. It just says Achilles, but they haven't confirmed yet. It doesn't say if it's the same one or not, and I don't have time to dive deeper into it in the middle of a podcast. But Josh Dobbs was better than anything the Falcons have had at quarterback in a while. 158 yards for 2 touchdowns. Taylor Heineke was average, but still better than Desmond Ridder, 268-1. Both quarterbacks are probably only low-end super flex options at best. Madison is an interesting player here because he's definitely going to get the share now with just Chandler and McBride or Wongwu, who was inactive. He had 44 yards and a touchdown. The receiving touchdown was on 2 receptions for 49. The running back room, I don't know what the hell they're doing over here. We have Bijan Robinson, who had 1 carry less than Tyler Algier.
Well, he fumbled. That's what happened is Tyler Algier wasn't getting touches at all, and Bijan had the fumble where he lost the fumble,
I
and
see
after
that.
that, they never went back to him. It was like,
I don't understand that.
guys,
He's a rookie.
yeah,
I don't understand. Arthur Smith is up there with Pete Carroll for coaches who piss me off.
yeah, his press con. Oh, by the way, and you say he's better than Taylor Heineke's better than Desmond Ritter. The press conference that Arthur Smith said that they're probably going back to Ritter next week. So um, the shenanigans will continue.
Good God, that's scary. This team pisses me off. When we get to the receivers, who were all disappointing, Addison was the best of the bunch on either team, 5 for 52. There's nobody else here worth mentioning. Nobody did anything. The tight ends, Jonnu Smith, because of course he's better than Kyle Pitts. He had 5 for 100 and a touchdown. Pitts had 4 for 56. TJ Hawkinson was good, 7 for 69. So 3 of the 4 best performances here belong to tight ends. That's awesome. I love this game. Both kickers were good, which is good because Koo was in the Tucker category for me of guys who've been really disappointing. Him, Carlson, Tucker have been really bad this year, and they were all drafted pretty highly. Both defenses were okay. Like, I guess the Falcons were decent. I don't think you played either, so
Yeah,
no
probably not.
real loss there. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, Atlanta, I don't even know, man. I'm with you with the whole Arthur Smith. I am not a fan of this guy.
Pissing me off. Everything he's
Yeah.
ruining. So he's ruining. I don't know if you want to call him ruining Ritter. Maybe Ritter's ruining Ritter, but he's ruining Bijan. He's ruining Kyle Pitts. He's ruining Drake London. I get like Drake London didn't play, but he's ruining a lot of good players.
Yeah, I'm with you. And unfortunately the team is 5-4, so they're still in the hunt in this division, which this division
Four
sucks.
and
So,
five, I think.
or yeah, sorry, 4-5, and they're still,
Either
but they
way,
can still
still
make the
probably
playoffs
in
at this
first
point.
place with that record in this.
Yeah, yeah. So, unfortunately, this division kind of is a nightmare, but it's going to continue. It's going to continue for a while, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. You see one team where they had tons of talent and they were, a really good game script for fantasy, and then they lost everyone to injury. And then you have one team that's healthy, full of talent, and they're just completely pissing it away because Arthur Smith is an idiot. Can I help you?
Yep.
Can I help you? Sorry, don't mind me. All right, we will move on to the next one. We've got the Packers beating the Rams 20-3. We have another injury in this one. Christian Watson, multiple injuries plus a concussion. Data favors out at least week 10, if not week 11, but we don't have any further update. Gotta love it when you see multiple injuries plus a concussion in the tagline. Wonderful. Wonderful. He's another one where I never understood it all offseason, the hype he was getting. And so I decided I'm going to sell high. And then I looked and I said, oh, man, he's getting so much value. It's one of those situations where everyone values him so high, you think, well, I must be wrong. 99 other people say he's good, but we're 9 weeks in here. I'm going, man, am I glad I sold him.
Yep. I was never in on him either. So,
I wasn't either.
I feel you.
Yeah, I don't think he's any good. He had a couple of big boom touchdown games, but speaking of not good, Brett Ripien, 130 yards, 1 interception. Jordan Love, 228 and 1 touchdown. Love didn't kill you, but he certainly didn't help you.
Right.
Running backs, Aaron Jones was good, 73 yards and a touchdown, lost a fumble. I wonder if he didn't get to play after he lost his fumble. Oh, wait, Arthur Smith doesn't coach the Packers, asshole. A.J. Dillon had 40 yards. Darrell Henderson had 19 yards on 10 carries. That is impressive. Oh, 12 carries for 32 yards for Royce Freeman. So the Rams are really the YPC masters here. Oh, my God. I scrolled up, and it doesn't get any better. The receivers aren't any better here. We have Jaden Reed. He had more rushing yards than he had receiving yards. Dontavian Wicks has 4 for 49 and a fumble lost, 3 for 36 for Dobbs, 1 for 37 for Watson. Watson had more injuries than targets. Ugh.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp, 2 for 48. Puka Nacua, 3 for 32. Tutu Atwell, 4 for 30. This game is ugly. Well, how about the tight ends? We have Luke Musgrave, who did something. He had 3 for 51 and a touchdown. The kickers were meh. The defenses were decent, but basically, if it weren't for Musgrave getting a touchdown to save his stat line and Aaron Jones, Aaron Jones was good. Other than that, we have one touchdown here that's made Luke Musgrave salvageable. And this game was ugly. Everyone in here sucked.
Yep, I'm with you. The Rams still have a good defense, and the Packers defense is good. Brett Ripien is bad. It was just a weird game. Like, everybody kind of knew going into it that you don't really want to start a Ram, and it panned out that way, right? But Green Bay's struggles are so frustrating, and I know that a lot of it falls on Jordan Love. Like, he's getting a lot of the blame. But if you look at the receivers, right? Jaden Reed, Wicks, Dobbs, and Christian Watson, these guys have a combined like 3 years of experience between them. Like they're all so young. It's crazy. And
40 drops or something like that.
I know. It's just they really need like they need a Devontae Adams, to be honest with you, on this team, unfortunately. And I do think that there are better days ahead, but Green Bay's in for a long year. Unfortunately, they got the win here, which is good. But yeah, I do think that it's just going to be a long year for Packers fans, and hopefully by the end of it, you can see some progression from these young players. But it's just growing together essentially right now.
Yeah, that Devontae Adams to the Raiders. I think if they could go back, that's one trade or one move that both Devontae and the Packers would undo, because it hasn't worked out for either of them. Right. Devontae got there, played like 6 games with his college roommate or teammate or whatever, and then he was gone, and the Packers suck without him. So I'm going to move on. This game's freaking terrible, and I'm sick of looking at it. We're going to go to this one. My Saints beat the Bears 24-17 in the only game on this slate with no injuries. We had Derek Carr, who was decent, but I thought he'd be a lot better. I had him as outscoring Tua, which he did, but he wasn't great. 211-2. He was, I guess it's Derek Carr good, but Tyson Bagent was better, who had 220-2. 3 interceptions. That's the difference there. 8 carries for 70 yards. Tyson Bagent has a rushing floor.
Yeah, he busted off some big ones in this game.
Wow, 70. Yeah, after nothing, maybe they finally turned him loose. That's something interesting to watch. If he's going to keep putting up 70 rushing yards a game, I don't care. I mean, you'd like him to rein in the 3 interception part, but Jesus.
Right. No, he was kind of mediocre, to be honest with you, but we'll see if they're playing on Thursday. So I don't know if they're going to go with him or if Fields is going to be back. This is the week that everyone kind of expected Fields to be able to return, because he had the gripping issue with the ball, and everyone said kind of 2-3 weeks would be the minimum in injury time. So
does it matter if I put the cursor over Tyson Bagent so you couldn't read that, and it said 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 70 rushing yards? Would you believe me if I told you this was Justin Fields' stat line? Because it's what Justin Fields does anyway. So
I think it'd be like maybe 1 interception instead of 3, but the stat lines would be almost identical.
Maybe, but they're the same player, I think. Yeah, a little bit more upside, obviously, on one. Kamara, probably his worst game of the season. 9 carries for 26 yards, 4 for 44. That's not the stat line I was expecting there. Of course he was. I just picked him up I just traded for him in a league, so he sucked. Deonta Foreman, 20 for 83. It's amazing that he had a pretty solid day, but no touchdowns. So it's just
and no receptions either, which just kills you for fantasy.
This goes to show you, hey, the value of the catches and the touchdowns. Darrington Evans, useless. Roshan, useless. Jamal Williams, useless. Kendre Miller, useless. Let's go on to the receivers here. We had 6 for 46 and a touchdown for Olave, who was off to a hot start and then didn't do much for the rest of the game. 3 for 22 for Shaheed. 0 catches on 1 target for Michael Thomas. Mooney,
he's been so consistent too. That's what that one was.
8 to 12 points every game, and then just drops a dud. But Darnell Mooney, 5 for 82. DJ Moore, 3 for 44 and a fumble lost. Not great from the receivers here. I mean, Mooney and Olave saved it, but the tight ends were good. I actually had a lot of Taysom Hill starting. It was 1 rushing touchdown. Oh, that's a passing touchdown. Okay. He had one completion for 3 yards and a passing touchdown.
Yes.
11 carries, 52 yards, and a rush. Oh no, 11 carries and 52 yards, and then 4 receptions for 13 yards and a touch. Why can't this guy just do one thing? Why does he have to have a passing, rushing, and receiving stat line? He's driving me fucking nuts. Good God, I have to read a quarterback, a running back, and a receiver stat for Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I hate Taysom Hill, so but yeah, no, he plays everywhere, man, and they embrace it, I guess.
I wonder if he had managed to score a rushing touchdown. I wonder if any NFL players ever had a rushing, receiving, and passing touchdown in the same game.
Didn't Christian McCaffrey have it last year in like his first game with San Francisco?
49ers? Yeah, that'd be something else. That's awesome. Then we had Cole Kmet, who had 6 for 55. Most of it was, I mean, that's 6 for 55 is a solid stat line for a low end tight end one. The 2 touchdowns is what makes him a top 2 tight end, top 3 tight end this week. Don't expect that to continue. The kickers were crap. Saints defense was good. They only gave up 17 points. The Bears, I don't get this. They had no points. They just did nothing. They gave up nothing. They gave up 24 points and they had no usable stats, I guess. Lovely. Yep. So the Saints had 3 picks. That helps. Giving up 17 points also helps. Fumble recovery. So Saints defense was good. We had 2 tight ends who were good, 2 receivers who were good, and Kamara was okay, and the quarterbacks were decent. So we had a much better game than the last one, but nothing crazy here except for some.
This one was fun too, because it was kind of like back. Your Saints won it, but the entire time I was like, man, are the Bears gonna do it again? They beat the Raiders a couple weeks ago. It's like, are they gonna do it again and beat the Saints here? But you guys ultimately pulled it out. So
hey, a Joe Mixon rushing touchdown, lovely. Love it. Sorry, I got distracted. I don't have the TV on, so I didn't know. I just, every time I scroll up, I see this game light up, and I'm like, 14-7. I wondered who scored. We will move on next. We've got Indy at Carolina. I have an injury note here. It is Josh Downs. No specific re-injury play, which is good news. If he re-aggravated his knee, I would expect him to be out 2 to 3 weeks. If he just decided he wasn't healthy enough to play, it'd be a good chance he returns for week 10. So that's very non-specific from Deepak, but we're going to have to monitor Josh Downs. I'm going to have to list that. Josh Downs. Someone to monitor later. All right, let's get into this one. What the hell did I do? Oh, there we go. 27-13 Indy. I did watch some of this. This was a 4:00 game, I believe, because every time I looked up, I feel like Bryce Young was throwing another interception.
Pick 6.
Was,
2 of them.
Yeah, 2 of them from Moore, right?
Yeah, Kenny Moore.
Kenny Moore, yeah. I did. I seen them both, too, and I was like, why are they showing this highlight again? And then I looked and I'm like, oh, it's going the other way on the field. This isn't a highlight. I'm like, this is the same guy taking it back. So
yeah, this is the funny stat from this one, and I found this hilarious. Touchdown passes from Bryce Young on the season. I think Adam Thielen has 3, and he leads, and then number 2 is Kenny Moore.
That's awesome. If I had gone into the season and told you that out of the 4 rookie quarterback, or out of the rookie quarterbacks, Bryce Young would be like 5th in value right now. That's crazy. Like at this point, I think he looks even worse than Will Levis. Like he's considerably behind CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. Yep. Bryce Young looks to be a bust. Although I mean it's still early, but he could still develop. It's not going well, but they didn't give him any weapons. So 127 yards and a TD for Minshew, who sucked. 173 and 1 touchdown for Bryce Young isn't bad, but the 3 interceptions don't help. 5 carries for 41 is an interesting thing to monitor. Should he ever actually get this damn interception number under wraps?
Yeah. Yep.
Jonathan Taylor looks to be the one again in the Indy backfield. 18 carries to Zach Moss's 7. He had 47 yards, 5 for 22 and a touchdown through the air. Moss had 7 for 26. Chuba Hubbard, 58 yards, 9 receiving yards. Miles Sanders only had 6 carries. I don't know if they've just given up on him or if it's a lingering health issue still, but he
I
only
think
had
they're working him back because I actually watched that whole game pretty much, and they started with full Chuba in the first half. The second half they started going more to Miles Sanders, and they were using him a lot on when it kind of came down to the more critical situations when he popped off quite a few big runs, right? And it looks like they're trying to get back to him, but Chuba just is the healthy one, and that's why they were kind of going with him first. But on the other side, like you said, I think the Zach Moss days are coming to an end. It was a little disappointing though, because the Carolina Panthers, they were the worst run defense in the entire league. They were averaging 5 yards a carry against opposing running backs, and both of these guys just couldn't. Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor could not get it done, which was extremely depressing. Jonathan Taylor was okay, but 18 for 47 is not what you love to see against the worst run defense.
Chuba played 65% of snaps, 13 of 19 snaps on 3rd and 4th down, 2 of 3 inside the 10. So, yeah, he was getting the heavy usage because looks like he is healthier.
Yes. Yep.
Moving down here, Pittman, 8 for 64, a good day. Could have used a touchdown. 1 for 10 for downs. He left with the injury. The Carolina receivers were just kind of disappointing. DJ Chark, 2 for 9 and 1 touchdown. How do you put up 9 fantasy points? How do you have a touchdown and still only put up 8.9? Not impossible. Thielen, yep. 5 for 29, not a great day. Mingo, 1 for 5. He continues to disappoint. The tight ends were useless. Hayden Hurst was 2 for 54. That's the best thing there. Kickers were average. Colts defense was my start of the week, and boy did Kenny Moore make me look great.
Yep.
3 interceptions, 13 points allowed, 4 sacks, a forced fumble, and 2 pick sixes. The Panthers, hopefully you weren't starting them against Gardner Minshew. Any takeaways from this one?
Yeah, Bryce Young just continues to kind of be poor. It's rough when in the same day CJ Stroud just goes nuclear. And I get it, the argument that Carolina doesn't really have many weapons, but on the flip side, I would say Houston has got to be in a similar situation. Like they're better, but not much better.
CJ Stroud's just playing better.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. So the Colts are interesting in this one. They're 3-5 now. They can actually make a run in this and actually go for playoffs. This division's kind of wide open for them to kind of make a run here. So we'll see what they can do. But I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be much better going forward. He seems like he's finally back to being the number one, but hopefully he can get the efficiency up a little bit here.
We will conclude it with another pretty solid game. Philly beat the Cowboys 28-23. Considering a lot of the games were ugly looking matchups, a lot of them were pretty well played, pretty solid games. We'll start with the injury note. Dallas Goedert. Video suggests an elbow sprain or dislocation. If no fractures, most elbow injuries don't equal an extended absence. Would project a Week 11 return if no fracture. If fractured, most often IR, possibly season ending. So that would be interesting to keep an eye on Goddard, whether or not it is a fracture or not. If it's a fracture, he may be done for the year. If not, he's probably back for next week.
It looked bad. It looked really, really bad. I saw this one live.
He went down on it, right? I seen him. I thought I seen him go down, and then I seen him be going off the field, but I didn't.
The defender landed on it. It was kind of a weird, like it almost got leveraged between the defender and him. So it was kind of a weird one, but my money would be on it's probably broken, but we'll see.
Not great. So that would mean he's probably done for the year, which gives me an interesting option because I'm in a vampire league where Monster League actually, but where the only player on the other team that was worth stealing was Dallas Goedert. I think there was one running back, so I was like, I guess I'm just gonna wait and force trade him Goddard. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just pass. So we'll get into this one. We only got a few minutes left, so we will be quick. Both quarterbacks were awesome. 374 and 3 for Dak. 207 and 2 for Hurts. This matchup seems to bring out the best for Dak, and then he'll play a crappy team and do nothing. So both quarterbacks look like they're probably top 5 options this week, or they're going to finish in the top 5. Running backs were average. It looks like this was a pass fest. Pollard had 12 for 51. I'm not a big Pollard fan. I figured with the increased carries would come the inefficiency, and that looks like to be the case. DeAndre Swift was similar, 18 for 43. Both of them had a mediocre role in the passing game. Gainwell had 22 yards, was saved by a touchdown. Moving on to the wide receivers, we had big games from CeeDee Lamb, who had 11 for 191, had 28 points, and lost a fumble. That's impressive. A.J. Brown had 7 for 66 and a touchdown. Jalen Tolbert and Devonta Smith were also relevant based solely on touchdowns. 3 for 51 and a touchdown for Smith. 3 for 49 and a touchdown for Tolbert. Turpin had 1 for 5 and a touchdown. I believe the touchdown was a punt or a kick return, right?
Yes, I believe so.
He's a lot more valuable if your league counts kick yards. Tight ends, Ferguson was great. 7 on 10 targets is nice. 91 yards and a TD. Goddard 3 for 50 before leaving for the injury. Both kickers were not great, despite the fact that Brandon Aubrey continues to break records. And both defenses were disappointing, but these were two of the defenses where I said I very rarely advocate for holding 2 defenses or having 2 defenses on your roster. But in this case, I would have had both of these on my bench and I would have streamed one. What do you got here for this game?
I think the biggest thing for me for the Dallas side, I think that Jake Ferguson is the dude for this offense. And I think that him and Dak are getting that synergy. And if you go back Dak's whole career, right, he's always done really well when there's a good tight end on this offense. And I think that's why we've kind of seen this offense be a lot better the last couple of weeks. Obviously they weren't good enough in this one, but I mean, Dak was, Yep, he was killer in this game. You saw Dak had 375 yards basically with 3 touchdowns, and they still lost. So
targets is not nothing for a tight end. 10 targets, man. That's a lot.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. So I think Jake Ferguson is definitely somebody, if you can go out there and get him cheap because they're still skeptical, that'd be the biggest thing for me is just, see if you can cash in on that. But other than that, it was kind of how you expected. Both defenses are weak in the secondary. They're pretty good against the run for both of these guys. So we saw a lot more production through the air for both of these teams. And kind of lived up to what it was. It was a good game back and forth.
That's exactly what my takeaway was going to be. It was as expected. Hopefully you were able to stash either defenses. The takeaway, like I said, is Ferguson. If he's available, go get him because every other both defenses, Goddard, the good receivers, the running backs, none of these guys are available in any league. So basically the takeaway here is if Ferguson is on your waiver wire, go get Jake Ferguson because he's the only one who's likely to be available on either of these high-flying teams.
Yep. Or if you can trade him for cheap in Dynasty, I think he's still worth it. He's been getting so many targets the last couple of weeks. It's just it's hard to get that production, It's very tough. So
well, thank you for pinch hitting here for me, Calvin. You want to take one more chance here? Tell everyone where they can find you and your work and what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah. You can find us on YouTube again at the Dynasty After Dark podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, everywhere the podcasts are really found. We do a Dynasty podcast where we talk about things a lot more in the off season. We talk about the rookies pretty heavily. We do mock drafts. We talk about player values, top 10s, all that kind of stuff. Really trying to help people improve and think about Dynasty a little bit differently. Cause I look at it through a different lens than a lot of people out there, and it might be my engineering brain or whatever, but we try and give a different perspective on a lot of that stuff. So come check us out. We got a sports betting podcast as well that comes out every Saturday morning for some football bets, and we'll be able to do that year round as well. When some of the other sports, right now we're focused primarily on football, but we'll get into NHL and all that other stuff, baseball and everything. So come check us out whenever you get a chance, and you can find me on Twitter at TDC_Calvin.
Nice. I did that last year. my first sports were hockey and baseball. So I had someone approach me and I said, okay, I can write Red Wings content. I love the Red Wings, but I hadn't realized that since the pandemic hit, I've been so into football since the NHL closed down for the year. Like I came back and I was like, man, I'm so out of touch. I'm looking at the Red Wings roster. I'm like, I don't even know half these players. I told them,
Yeah.
Thanks, baby shark. All right, and on that note, that concludes the NFL Week 9 Fantasy Football NFC Game Recap Show. For Aaron and Calvin, thank you for tuning in to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again for stepping in, man. I owe you.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.